Let me tell you something: you were not put on this earth to be a doormat. Being kind, that's admirable. Being compassionate, that's strength. But being nice to the point where you sacrifice your own peace, your own boundaries, that's a fast road to disrespect, self-inflicted and otherwise. So let's talk. Stop being nice to men. Do this instead. Start respecting yourself first. Nice is often seen as a virtue, a quality that reflects warmth, approachability, and a willingness to help others. It's an admirable trait, but when it becomes excessive, it can blur into something that undermines your own value. Being nice. A Schabinger often gets conflated with being kind, but there's a critical difference. Kindness comes from a place of strength, self-awareness, and genuine compassion, while being overly accommodating, what many refer to as being too nice, often stems from a desire to avoid conflict, gain approval, or please others at your own expense. When you're kind, you act from a place of intention. Your actions are thoughtful and deliberate, and they reflect your values without compromising your boundaries. Kindness doesn't mean saying yes to everything or agreeing to things that make you uncomfortable. It doesn't mean silencing your opinions to make someone else happy. True kindness respects both your needs and the needs of others. It allows you to give freely, but not at the cost of your dignity or well-being. On the other hand, being nice in the sense of being overly accommodating often comes with strings attached, whether you realize it or not. It's when you say yes even though your gut screams no. It's when you keep quiet instead of speaking your truth because you fear upsetting someone. It's when you prioritize someone else's comfort over your own, hoping they'll like you more, appreciate you, or validate your worth. But here's the hard truth: being overly nice doesn't earn respect. It often invites others to take advantage of you. When you're too nice, you risk sending the message that your needs, time, and feelings are secondary. This can lead to a pattern where others expect you to accommodate them, no matter the cost to you. You might feel drained, resentful, or invisible because you've allowed your boundaries to be crossed in the name of being nice. Over time, this can erode your self-respect and even your identity. You start to define yourself not by who you are, but by how much you can do for others. This doesn't mean you should stop being considerate or thoughtful. Instead, it's about recognizing where the line is. Kindness has limits, and those limits are your boundaries. Being kind means being honest with yourself and others. It means saying no when you need to, not because you're selfish, but because you value your own time and energy. It means standing firm when someone tries to guilt or manipulate you, knowing that protecting your peace is an act of self-love. When you strike the right balance, you're able to give to others without depleting yourself. You're able to show compassion without losing your voice. And most importantly, you can act from a place of authenticity, where your actions reflect your values and not just a desire to please. Defining the limits of nice is about understanding that your worth isn't determined by how much you do for others, but by how much you honor yourself. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect and self-preservation. It's not about pushing people away or being selfish. It's about creating a healthy space where you can thrive emotionally, mentally, and even physically. Boundaries are not walls designed to isolate you from others, but rather guidelines that define how you want to be treated and what you are willing to accept in your relationships. They are essential to maintaining your well-being and protecting your peace. Without boundaries, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, disrespected, or taken advantage of. You might find yourself constantly saying yes when you mean no, overextending yourself to meet others' expectations, or absorbing emotional burdens that aren't yours to carry. This can leave you drained, resentful, and disconnected from your own needs. Setting boundaries ensures that you are prioritizing your mental and emotional health, which in turn enables you to show up as your best self in all areas of your life. The first step in setting boundaries is recognizing your own limits. This requires self-awareness and an honest assessment of what you need to feel safe, respected, and valued. It's about understanding where your energy is being depleted and identifying the behaviors or situations that make you uncomfortable. Once you're clear on your limits, you can begin to communicate them to others. This is where many people struggle, fearing that setting boundaries will upset or alienate those around them. But the truth is, healthy relationships thrive on mutual respect, and boundaries are a critical part of fostering that respect. When you set boundaries, you're not just protecting yourself, you're teaching others how to treat you. You're showing them what is and isn't acceptable in your interactions. This might mean telling a friend that you're not available for a late-night venting session, explaining to a colleague that you won't respond to work emails after hours, or letting a partner know what behaviors you will not tolerate. The key is to be firm but respectful in your communication. You don't need to justify your boundaries or apologize for them. Simply state them clearly and stick to them. One of the most challenging aspects of setting boundaries is enforcing them. It's not enough to declare your limits, you must also be prepared to uphold them, even when it's uncomfortable. People who are used to you bending over backward to accommodate them might push back when you start asserting your boundaries. They might test you or try to guilt you into reverting to old patterns. This is where your resolve will be tested. Remember, enforcing boundaries is not about being harsh or punitive. It's about protecting your own well-being. Ultimately, boundaries are an act of self-care. They allow you to create a life that aligns with your values and priorities. They enable you to build relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation or guilt. And most importantly, they give you the freedom to be yourself unapologetically. By setting and honoring your boundaries, you're sending a powerful message to yourself and to others that your peace, your energy, and your happiness are worth protecting. Self-respect is the foundation upon which all healthy relationships and interactions are built. It is the internal compass that guides your actions, decisions, and the way you allow others to treat you. When you prioritize self-respect, you send a clear message to the world about your worth and the standards you have for yourself and your relationships. It's not just a personal value, it's a form of self-empowerment that influences every aspect of your life. When self-respect comes first, it changes the way you interact with others. You no longer feel the need to seek validation or approval from external sources because you understand that your worth isn't determined by how others perceive you. Instead, it's rooted in your own recognition of your value as a person. This self-assurance allows you to approach interactions with confidence and clarity. You become less likely to compromise your principles or settle for less than you deserve because you know that doing so would be a disservice to yourself. Prioritizing self-respect also sets the tone for how others treat you. People respond to the energy you project, and when you carry yourself with self-respect, they are more likely to treat you with the same level of respect. On the other hand, if you constantly put your needs last, accept mistreatment, or allow your boundaries to be crossed, you signal to others that it's acceptable to undervalue you. Self-respect creates a natural filter for your relationships, ensuring that the people who stay in your life are those who recognize and honor your worth. This isn't just about how others perceive you, it's also about the standards you hold yourself to. Self-respect requires you to take responsibility for your actions and decisions. It means honoring your commitments, being honest with yourself, and striving to live in alignment with your values. When you respect yourself, you avoid making choices that compromise your integrity or undermine your well-being. Instead, you make decisions that reflect your belief in your own value. Prioritizing self-respect doesn't mean you won't face challenges. There will be moments when standing up for yourself feels uncomfortable or even risky. You may encounter people who try to diminish your worth or situations that test your boundaries. In these moments, self-respect becomes your anchor. It reminds you that you are worthy of dignity, kindness, and fairness, and it gives you the courage to walk away from anything that doesn't align with those principles. Self-respect is not arrogance or self-absorption, it's a deep understanding of your own value. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness and consideration that you would extend to someone you love. It's about recognizing that you are deserving of happiness, respect, and fulfillment, and not settling for anything less. When you prioritize self-respect, you lay the groundwork for a life that reflects your worth, a life filled with meaningful relationships, purposeful actions, and an unwavering sense of personal empowerment. Learning to say no is one of the most powerful tools for asserting your values, protecting your priorities, and maintaining control over your life. Often people hesitate to say no because they fear being seen as rude, unkind, or uncooperative. But saying no is not an act of cruelty, it's an act of clarity and self-respect. It's about honoring your time, energy, and boundaries and ensuring that the decisions you make align with your goals and well-being. When you say yes to everything, you inevitably spread yourself too thin. You take on commitments that drain your energy, distract you from your priorities, and leave little room for the things that truly matter to you. Over time, this can lead to resentment, not just toward others, but also toward yourself for not standing firm. Saying no is a way to prevent this cycle. It allows you to focus on what's important and ensures that your actions are guided by intention rather than obligation. Saying no is not about rejecting people, it's about rejecting situations or requests that don't serve you. It's about being honest with yourself and others. For example, if a friend asks for your help, but you're already overwhelmed with your own responsibilities, saying no is not selfish, it's a recognition that you can't give your best to others if you're running on empty. Similarly, declining an invitation or opportunity that doesn't align with your goals is not ungrateful. It's a way of staying true to your path. The ability to say no is rooted in understanding your values and priorities. When you're clear about what matters most to you, it becomes easier to discern which requests or opportunities align with those priorities and which do not. This clarity empowers you to make decisions that reflect your true intentions rather than being swayed by guilt, pressure, or the desire to please others. By saying no to what doesn't serve you, you create space for what does. Of course, saying no can be uncomfortable, especially if you're used to putting others' needs before your own. But it's important to remember that no is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone an elaborate explanation or apology for choosing to honor your boundaries. A simple, firm, and polite no is enough. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. And the more you'll realize that saying no doesn't make you a bad person, it makes you a person who respects themselves. There will always be people who don't like hearing no, especially if they're accustomed to you always saying yes, but their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to yourself to ensure that your time, energy, and resources are spent in ways that align with your values. Saying no is not about closing doors, it's about choosing the right ones to walk through. It's a declaration of your priorities, a reinforcement of your boundaries, and a powerful act of self-care. Demanding reciprocity in relationships is not about keeping score or placing conditions on your affection. It's about ensuring that the connections you invest in are balanced, healthy, and mutually beneficial. Whether romantic or platonic, relationships should be a two-way street where both parties contribute effort, respect, and care. Without reciprocity, relationships can become one-sided, leaving one person drained and unfulfilled while the other takes without giving. Reciprocity begins with mutual respect. In any relationship, both people should feel valued and appreciated. When one person consistently gives more, whether it's time, energy, support, or emotional labor, the dynamic becomes unbalanced. Over time, this can lead to resentment and a sense of being taken for granted. Reciprocity ensures that the effort and care you put into a relationship are met with the same level of commitment from the other person. It's not about demanding perfection, but about recognizing that healthy relationships require both people to show up and contribute. In romantic relationships, reciprocity means that love, communication, and effort flow in both directions. It's not enough for one partner to always initiate conversations, plan dates, or make sacrifices. Both individuals need to invest in the relationship for it to thrive. For example, if one person is constantly supporting the other emotionally but doesn't receive the same support in return, it creates an imbalance that can erode the connection over time. A truly reciprocal relationship allows both partners to feel seen, heard, and valued. The same principle applies to platonic relationships. Friendships thrive when both people are willing to give and receive. If you're always the one reaching out, checking in, or making plans, it's worth questioning whether the friendship is truly reciprocal. True friends don't just take, they give back, whether through their time, support, or simply their presence. Reciprocity in friendships ensures that both individuals feel cared for and appreciated, strengthening the bond over time. Demanding reciprocity doesn't mean you're unwilling to give freely or that you expect an exact match for every gesture you make. It's about recognizing patterns. If someone consistently benefits from your generosity without making an effort to reciprocate, it's a sign that the relationship may not be as balanced as it should be. It's not selfish to expect effort and care in return. It's a fundamental aspect of healthy, respectful relationships. Establishing reciprocity starts with communication. Be honest about your feelings and needs. Let the other person know if you feel the relationship has become one-sided. Sometimes people are unaware of the imbalance and are willing to make changes once it's brought to their attention. However, if someone consistently fails to meet you halfway despite your efforts to address the issue, it may be time to reevaluate the relationship. Reciprocity is not just about fairness, it's about fostering connections that uplift and sustain both parties. When relationships are reciprocal, they create a sense of harmony and mutual support, allowing both people to grow and thrive together. It's a cornerstone of healthy interactions and a key ingredient for lasting, meaningful connections. When it comes to relationships, actions will always speak louder than words. Words are easy to say, they can be charming, persuasive, and full of promise. But actions reveal the truth. They show intent, commitment, and character in a way that words never can. Focusing on a man's actions rather than being swayed by charm or sweet talk is essential to building relationships based on honesty, respect, and trust. Promises, no matter how eloquently delivered, are meaningless without follow-through. A man can say all the right things, tell you everything you want to hear, and paint a picture of a future that seems perfect. But if his actions don't align with his words, those promises are hollow. Words are temporary, but actions are consistent. They show whether someone is genuinely invested in you or simply trying to win your approval in the moment. Charm is another powerful tool that can easily cloud judgment. A charming smile, a smooth line, or an extravagant compliment can make you feel special, seen, and wanted. But charm is fleeting. It can be a mask, a performance meant to impress without any real substance behind it. While it feels good in the moment, charm alone doesn't build trust, nor does it indicate a person's true intentions. Actions, however, are tangible. They show whether someone is willing to put in the effort required to back up their words and maintain their commitments. Observing actions requires patience and discernment. It's not about being overly critical or in life and relationships. Your worth is not defined by how much you give or how accommodating you can be. It's defined by how much you honor yourself, your values, your boundaries, and your peace of mind. Too often, people mistake being nice for being kind or being self-sacrificing for being noble, when in truth, these patterns often come at the cost of their own happiness and self-respect. The heart of this message is simple: prioritize yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of self-love and self-preservation. To live authentically, you must first know where you stand. Define what nice means to you and understand its limits. Being kind is powerful, but being overly accommodating is not sustainable. It's okay to care for others, but not at the expense of your own needs or identity. Your kindness should come from a place of strength, not a fear of rejection or a desire to please. It's this distinction that helps you maintain your dignity while still being a positive force in the lives of others. Setting boundaries is a natural extension of this self-awareness. Boundaries are not barriers, but pathways to healthier interactions. They protect your energy, your mental health, and your emotional well-being. Saying no is not an act of cruelty, but a way of asserting your priorities and values. It's a reminder to others and to yourself that your time and energy are valuable and that they cannot be taken for granted. Upholding your boundaries might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's an essential act of self-respect that teaches others how to treat you. Self-respect is the foundation of all meaningful connections. It sets the tone for every interaction, signaling to others how they should engage with you. When you prioritize self-respect, you attract relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, that are built on mutual admiration and care. True connections flourish when both parties are equally invested, and reciprocity becomes the standard, not the exception. It's not about keeping score, but about ensuring that the energy you pour into relationships is returned in a way that uplifts and sustains you. Finally, remember that actions reveal truths that words cannot. Sweet talk, charm, and promises can be enticing, but they mean little without the follow-through of consistent, meaningful actions. Pay attention to how people treat you, how they show up, and whether their actions align with their words. In doing so, you protect yourself from illusions and cultivate relationships grounded in authenticity and integrity. In the end, your life is a reflection of the standards you set and the respect you demand. Choosing to prioritize yourself is not about shutting others out. It's about ensuring that the people in your life contribute to your growth, your peace, and your happiness. Be kind but firm. Be giving but discerning. And most importantly, never forget that your first and greatest responsibility is to yourself. When you honor who you are, you open the door to relationships and opportunities that truly align with your worth. So what should you do? Instead of being nice, be intentional. Be firm. Be clear. Don't give more than someone is willing to give back. Lead with kindness, but don't let it overshadow your strength. This isn't about turning cold or hard, it's about living with purpose. The world respects a woman who respects herself. When you value yourself, you set the standard for how others value you. Remember this: it's not your job to convince a man to see your worth. It's your job to know your worth so clearly that no one can diminish it. Stop being nice to men. Start being kind to yourself. And watch how your world changes.